Hey everybody, what's going on? Hellmite here, bringing you another video from Grab the Lantern today. Today I wanted to cover a couple of really important things that Riot published over the last couple of days, namely the Irelia Mini-REWORK that is actually already on PvE if you guys want to take a look at that, and as well as the way that Riot is going to be overhauling their mythic content. Specifically, these are prestige skins, whether they're earned through event tokens or whether you buy them with prestige points, and their gemstone content as well. This is all going to be part of a brand new system that I'm excited to talk a little bit about, but let's handle the Irelia rework first, as I feel like this is probably why most of you guys are here. Now, historically, Irelia has had a bit of problems being balanced, as she's a bit of a no counterplay lane bully. She kind of is able to hit maximum stacks of her passive by just queuing minions. That heals her up a ton, and once she's at maximum stacks of her passive, she will outtrade almost any champion in the game with just auto attacks. Like, she doesn't even need her base kit. On top of that, the fact that she has a targeted gap closer that's insanely fast means that if you even draw remotely close to her, even in range of a caster minion, right, Irelia can dash to that caster minion, kill it instantly, reset Q, dash on top of you, and start the auto attack train going. And this, again, is not even factoring in her other abilities. She has the ability to either quick cast her E once she's on top of you, which stuns you almost instantly with no room for counterplay, or plant an E back behind herself and then dash forward and then recast it in the middle of the dash in order to stun you there, and you just kind of take a ton of damage out of nowhere and die. And she's kind of a lane bully that is obscenely oppressive early game, but she has to be that oppressive because she doesn't have a late game. Irelia is non-existent if she doesn't get ahead. Like, she has to be so giga-fed that she can't fall off, right? And if she doesn't get there, Irelia is kind of useless. A lot of her kit has issues outside of lane, especially if she doesn't have minions to stack off of, such as in a dragon pit fight, for example. Then it's really hard for her to get to that maximum stack passive where she's really able to shine, and her W is just kind of a dead ability. It does nothing. It's an additional hit for her passive, and that's about it. And essentially, this is a lot of the problems I had with old Irelia, like before the rework, in that there wasn't really a lot of counterplay. She kind of jumped on top of you with a targeted gap closer that she could reset and did a bunch of targeted damage, and realistically, there was nothing you could do about it, right? There was sort of no possible way to outplay it when everything she did was targeted and everything else was auto attacks. So, the mini rework that Riot are putting out, I'm actually a big fan of the rework, but I'm also a big fan of how they're handling it, in that they not only put out a Twitter thread saying, hey, here's the changes that we're going to be doing to Irelia, but also they publish an entire quick gameplay thoughts talking about the rationale behind all their changes and the goals of the rework. So we're not just looking at numbers and saying, oh, okay, well, Riot are probably doing this because of this, and they're probably going to change this because of this. Riot are specifically saying, hey, here were the goals of the rework, and here's what we changed in order to affect those goals in the article. So obviously you can read it if you want to. It's going to cover a lot of the things I'm going to talk about here. This is mostly going to be about my opinions on the rework, but definitely it's a big step forward, and I hope Riot does this more often with changes they make, rather than just saying, you know, here are the numbers, have fun, but giving us context. But either way, let's go ahead and talk about it a little bit. The biggest changes here are that Aurelia's Q dash speed has been slightly reduced. It's about a 10% reduction in movement speed on the Q, and E now has a flat travel time of 0.25 seconds. Now, these are both changes that a lot of Irelia mains have been the most concerned about, and I can understand why, but I think at the end of the day that these are relatively reasonable changes to make, especially when you consider all of the buffs she's getting. This rework is, I think, power positive for Irelia. If anything, it could have been power neutral to power negative if Riot had kept in a change where Irelia would be disallowed from reactivating E while in the middle of a Q dash. That is currently on PvE, but the Rioter in charge of the rework said they would be removing that because Irelia mains felt very strongly about that change in particular. So generally speaking, I think this is actually going to end up being a net buff to Irelia. So keep that in mind as I go through these couple of changes here. The biggest thing about the dash speed, it's not that big of a deal. It gives players a little bit more time to react. If you're someone like Poppy with a W or Urgot with E, you have a little bit more time to see it coming and then react to it. It also means that as Irelia is dashing through a bunch of minions, she's taking just that much longer per minion, which means she's taking that much longer to complete all of her dashes, complete her stacking, and then dash on top of you. So in general, I'm a big fan of that change, and I think that's a little bit less impactful than the E change, where the travel time is sort of a big one. Because Irelia can sort of double tap it right next to, with the blades right next to you, and then they just instantly slice, and you take the stun, and then she gets to do the reset and get the double Q off, and you take a ton of damage out of nowhere. Having a guaranteed quarter-second cast time means that you always have an opportunity to see it coming and to dodge it. Technically, this is also a buff for the very long-range E-cast, so when Irelia plants an E way back behind herself and then dashes forward and runs at you and then plants an E ideally behind you at the end, right, that's technically a buffed case because the blades have significantly farther to go, but they're still only going to take a quarter second to close the gap, which is kind of nice, but it does mean that in lane for a lot of opportunities where Irelia uses this ability, it's going to be a net nerf. Generally, though, I like this, and funnily enough, this was a huge part of Irelia's power, was being able to get the insta-E stuns into all of the damage that she had from then on out. So the fact that this is getting changed actually opens up a ton of opportunities for Riot to buff up Irelia's kit. So even though this is a big change, an impactful change, and a huge nerf to Irelia, she's getting all that power back plus more in the rest of her kit. Let's go through the buffs here. Let's talk about the W here first, as I mentioned that that's sort of the irrelevant button in Irelia's kit. The biggest thing here is that her W is now back to having magic damage reduction on the channel, so she is going to be able to block some magic damage when she's in her W channel, but it also can scale to resist up to 80% of physical damage based on her champion level, which is huge, but remember, this is all intended by Riot to force her to have more of a late game, right? They're trying to say, hey, Irelia, specifically, we want you to have to try and play late, we want you to have a late game, and you're going to lose some of that early game power. So it scales with champion level. The only thing that scales with the ability rank is damage and cooldown. Now, the damage has also been giga buffed on this ability now, but it's almost always going to be a 1-point wonder regardless, but that kind of makes it nicer because then you don't have to be putting points into it for it to be relevant because the DR scales with her level. So in general, it's going to be really good, and having an 80% DR button in the later phases of the game is going to be quite strong, especially against full physical damage teams. Irelia has a button that says, I take 20% of all the damage your team is going to do to me over the course of this channel, which is absolutely nuts. The biggest thing here as well is that the R now passively reduces the cooldown of her Q. So at maximum rank of her R, her Q cooldown is reduced by 2.5 seconds before ability haste is applied. This means that her Q is going to be like a 3 to 3.5 second cooldown, even if she's built just a tiny bit of ability haste. So she'll really be able to just Q off cooldown without having to worry about resets in the later stages of the game, which again is a massive, massive buff to Irelia's late game. And her passive is going to be easier to stack as well. It now only has to get up to 4 stacks to be at maximum, and the attack speed has scaled, so you still hit the same amount of attack speed you would have at 5 stacks as you do now at 4 stacks. The on-hit magic damage was very slightly nerfed, but the ratio is buffed to compensate, so if you're able to get further into your build, again, if the game goes later, you'll be able to more accurately abuse that slightly buffed up AD ratio. Again, overall, I think this is actually a power positive change for Irelia. I do think Riot will be quick on the nerf bat if they have to after this rework goes live, but in general, I'm a big fan of the direction they're taking with these changes and a big fan of how they're changing Irelia versus a couple other directions they might have taken. So big fan of this. We'll see how it shakes out once it hits live. Finally, let's go ahead and talk about the Prestige content update. Riot had plans to revamp Mythic content, which this is gemstone skins and Prestige skins of both categories by late this year, but things changed. A lot of Rioters ended up leaving to go to other teams, and so it's been pushed back to 2022. This means that not only are any 2020 Prestige points you've earned carrying through all the way to this year, but any 2021 Prestige points that you've earned will additionally carry through to next year. So you can definitely keep on saving those up and hoping that a skin comes out for a champion that you want. Riot have also updated the list of champions that will be receiving Prestige skins in 2021. If you guys are interested, the Prestige event skins that are going to be coming out are confirmed for Kayn, Volibear, and Brand, which is a big news for Kayn as he's the only champion in the 1000-day club right now, so definitely exciting for him. LeBlanc will also be receiving a Prestige event skin for a previously existing skin of hers. My thoughts are that this is probably the championship skin or Ravenborn, but we'll have to see. Ravenborn I think would make a lot of sense if Coven is coming back, and Coven was a hugely popular skin line, so we'll see how that does. Either way, super excited to see where all these Prestige event skins are going, and Prestige points are also going to be getting another skin in the form of a Morgana existing skin. The skin is confirmed to be at the 975 level. This means that it could be a Prestige version of Sinful Succulence, Ghost Bride, Exiled, Lunar Wraith, or Bewitching. For those of you who are curious, I saved you a couple of clicks there researching which skins are actually still 975, so exciting news on the skin front here, but the biggest reveal I think of this article is that gemstones are going to be bundled in with how Riot handles Prestige content, and that more importantly, Riot are going to be adding a way to unlock Prestige skins without having to pay for the pass or points, which is a huge deal. Now, they do say it will take a long period of time in order for you to get Prestige skins for free, but the fact that it's possible is a big deal. Previously, or I guess I should say on live right now, there are only 2 real ways of getting a prestige skin. One of which is essentially paying the cost of the skin again for the event pass, and then spending dozens of, if not hundreds of hours grinding out all of the tokens you can possibly get in the event, purchasing nothing else from the pass that's available in order to buy the prestige skin that you want. The only other way of doing it is basically dropping a lump sum of money on the game in order to buy enough prestige points that you can get the skin. Neither of these are good, and they both kind of feed into the sort of whale hunting category, which I don't like saying, but is kind of true. The fact that you'll now be able to potentially earn prestige skins for free is really, really cool. I quite like that, and I do think that that's a good way of allowing even the sort of average player access to these really cool skins. So let's hope that's what the case is going to be going forwards, and again, I'm really excited to see how Riot end up shaking it up. Again, this is also going to affect the gemstone content, so presumably gemstones and prestige points will all be sort of lumped into the same category. So you'll earn gemstones by opening boxes in some sort of form of currency, and you can use this currency to buy gemstone skins, but also if you save up enough, you'll be able to buy prestige content as well. So really excited to see how that shakes up. Again, that's my speculation. I don't know if that's going to be true or not, but I believe that's the direction Riot are going in. We won't have any news until 2021 or 2022, but exciting to hear regardless. And that's going to be it for me today, guys. Thank you all so very much for watching. I do appreciate it, you guys. Let me know what you think of any of this down in the comment section below, especially if you're a hardcore Irelia player and you have some strong opinions on the rework, one way or the other. I would love to hear your guys' comments down in the comment section below. I don't play Irelia as much as I know you guys do, so definitely leave your feedback down there. If you enjoyed the video today, go ahead and leave a like. And if you really enjoy the video, consider subscribing. I upload a video every Monday, Friday, and on patch days as well. Once again, thank you guys so very much for watching. I do appreciate it. And I'll talk to you all later.